This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks, with an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to Eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
On my Area 51 line, you're on the air. Hello.
Welcome to the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast, where what you've known as reality will be shattered by the truth. Krista and Brandy will lift the veil from your eyes, revealing what has either been hidden or denied you for eons.
Hey, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Yay.
Happy Thursday.
And guess what, Brandy?
What?
I fixed the sound of my computer.
Oh my goodness. Lord, it only took you a couple weeks.
I know. You know what? So I brought my work laptop home again today, And I'm like, man, I got to have my laptop back. It's got all my stuff on it, right? And so I was looking at it,
right.
And I went to troubleshoot and all kinds of stuff. And I looked down, and the F4 button has a microphone on it with a line going through it. And guess what? It was lit up. All I had to do was push F4, and it started working. That was it.
Woo! There's another blonde moment for everybody out there.
Yeah.
Hi.
All about that F4 button. So I'll know next time.
I know. But what I wanted to let everybody know is that tomorrow night at 7 p.m., of course, Blondes and Booze show will still be on. Krista will not be with us. She will be at Emmaus Village investigating out there, and I will be there Saturday night. So there are some tickets still available. You can go to HauntedSoulz.com and be able to pick up some tickets if you still want to show up. So, or if you can't find them, hey, send us an email at blondesandbooze@gmail.com and we'll get you in touch.
Yep, absolutely. We'll, so we'll be there this weekend. It's going to be fun. So tomorrow night, though, you have BMR coming on to co-host with you. So he's going to be a blonde tomorrow night.
Yeah, I have BMR, I have Donny, and I have Jason McLean.
Oh, I didn't know about that. I had asked BMR for you.
Oh, yeah. No. This is a whole thing. I voluntold him. I voluntold him. So we should have a really good conversation tomorrow night. I voluntold him.
Awesome. That'll be fun. Good deal. Well, tonight, I'm kind of excited about tonight's show because we're going to talk about Zombie Road. And Zombie Road is an area here in St. Louis that is known to be haunted. There's a park there, walking trails, and it's along the Merrimack River. So there's a lot of wonky things that happen there, and it's been going on for many years. So we brought our friend Jeremiah. I'm going to go ahead and bring him up.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. Hello. I mean, we've talked about this subject several times, but we've never really been in depth like where he's going to take us tonight. And you're going to be absolutely amazed of all the stuff that goes on in this little, I would call it little, it's a park. It's a park. And people hike this thing. They take walks out there, they take pictures, all kinds of stuff, but it's what lays in the dark that scares you.
Right.
And this is one of those places.
Yep. And
Absolutely.
Jeremiah, you also have a podcast, don't you?
Yes, actually behind me, it's the Cryptique Podcast. You can find it anywhere that you get your podcasts. And we talk about a lot of the same stuff you guys talk about, but we don't have guests on as much. But yeah, we're still playing with different formats because it's kind of hard to find a pattern. So we're thinking maybe we're going to stick to paranormal a little bit more.
Oh, awesome. Gotcha. You know, we started out with just paranormal. I got to tell you, we did. We were all about the paranormal. Yeah. However, like now, and don't get me wrong, we still love the paranormal. We will always love chasing ghosts. However, now though, like Bigfoot and Dogmen, like that's all up our alley.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're all about that. So
we've always had the itch. We just kind of like went with it. We just finally went with it.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So for everybody in chat, I did drop Jeremiah's link. If you guys would go and show him some love and subscribe to his channel, we'd appreciate it.
I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. Some Zombie Road.
All right. So we talked just a little bit about it earlier, but I described it as kind of a hoarder's house. You just never know what you're going to find, and there's stuff everywhere. And you could find, a Gucci purse under a dead animal in a hoarder's house, and it's the same way out there. It's just you never know what's going to pop up.
And so for people that actually are listening, so we have talked Zombie Road before, and we've showed pictures before, and pictures were courtesy of Paranormal Task Force. We, the shadow, the people standing on the hillside. I believe that Tom took those pictures, and then some, with the different shadow figures and stuff too. So that way people can kind of remember what road we're talking about. So.
Absolutely. So you mentioned shadow people, and they are kind of a constant down there. I actually grew up, I was playing on Zombie Road when I was a kid. And so I mean, I'm friends with all the locals. I know all the stories, and then the research gets even more exciting. But anyway, we've got shadow people. We've got a railroad worker spirit that committed suicide in a cabin down there. It's a very active place we'll talk about. Obviously, the lady in white's everywhere. Old Blue, the mummy, a monkey man, and one person even said that they saw a flannel man down there. So there's Bigfoot stories too, and we'll get to those. Yeah. The reason that I think that there's so much activity, we had a psychic and energy worker, Dave Barnett, on the show who did kind of a remote view of the area and said that there's 9 portals and 2 wormholes. So some people believe in that, some people don't. I happen to, and I would dismiss it sometimes, but in this case, there's so much going on that would explain a lot.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned that you're walking on a hiking trail. It's a beautiful trail. There's, bluffs on one side, there's forests, there's the river. Now imagine if you're walking that trail and then you just look over and all of a sudden there's indigenous warriors everywhere getting ready to have a battle with each other, because that's what happened long ago. Before anybody else was there were battles, and the locals have collected literally thousands of arrowheads in the area. So we know that, there was warfare going on and trade.
Well, and the thing too, you mentioned, the Indians and stuff there too, and the Merrimack River that runs right through there. Merrimack, I mean, they called it the River of Death.
That's it's kind of disputed because we don't know for sure which tribe actually, where the name was derived from. We had Osage, Missouri, Illinois, and then, the Cahokia Mound Builders. So the Osage, for them, let's see here. Okay, the Osage word for dead or death is Ziga. So it could have been one of the other, local tribes, but some people say that it means ugly fish or ugly water. So that would fit too, because it's very muddy.
Yeah, that would fit. Yeah.
In that area, it's pretty bad. But so, continuing with the indigenous people, the Osage had words, obviously to describe things that they knew and that they saw. So Wano is ghost, Kidaze is shadow, Paizi is evil, and are you ready for this? Hiyuzi means monkey.
Wow.
Why would they have a word for monkey?
That's a good question, because they wouldn't have any.
Mm-mm.
Not in Missouri.
No.
So either they're describing something that they've seen, or they've visited, another continent, or they've had visitors from another continent.
Right.
So I'm going with Bigfoot. That's what I'm going with.
I mean, maybe that's what they're calling Bigfoot. I mean, they'd have to have some knowledge of something to call it a monkey.
Right.
So maybe, they would use that word for Bigfoot. Because that's the only thing that I can think of. They learned the word from somewhere, and then that's what they used for Bigfoot. That's possible.
Absolutely. That makes the most sense to me, because obviously I believe that there were Sasquatch in the area, and we'll get to stories about that. But then you have the railroad. The railroad went through, and we know that, there was no OSHA back then, and people died all the time. It wasn't necessarily engineers handling the dynamite all the time, and, just a lot of deaths on just working on the railroad. So we covered the indigenous people, we covered the railroad going through, but again, you're walking through a forest. But during Prohibition, there were speakeasies, there were dance clubs, there were gangster houses. People got there on the river and on the train. They didn't even have roads that went back there, so it was perfect. And I don't know if a lot of your or most of your listeners or whatever are local, but in Castlewood, there's a little place that used to be there that looked like a castle, and that was the Lone Wolf Club, which was a speakeasy. Wow. So you can imagine, you've got gangsters, you've got speakeasies, you've got money, you've got liquor. Sure. It stands to reason that there's going to be probably a lot of murders, and the police can't really get back there, and what do they care if a bunch of gangsters are killing each other?
Right.
So, it's that's not right, but it is what it is, and I think that's how it was. So then we get kind of to the 40s, and German farmers kind of settled in the area. And then just moving on into the 80s, there's a town there called Sherman, and the people down there are awesome. They wanted to have their own kind of little place where people just left them alone. And that worked for a long time. And it was a fun place. You could ride four-wheelers down the street. You could take them down Zombie Road in the middle of the night, all this fun stuff. And then now when you go to Al Foster Trail, there's a sign that says no smoking. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is a public park.
Right.
So
right.
It's insane, the lockdown that's kind of happened since Wildwood took over. And, I don't want to cast too many stones, because, I'd like to get in there and investigate again at night one time. So we love you, Wildwood.
Yes. Well, if you do that, you remember me and call me, because Brandy and I would be right there with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess, this is a good time to bring up that if you go down there at night, you will probably get arrested. The local police actually drive their vehicles on Al Foster Trail. So There's a lot of hazards where you could get hurt down there at night, and it's just not worth it. So stay away. I mean, I know people are going to go out there and, stay away, but send us your evidence if you do go.
Right. Yeah, if you find something good, let us know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to bail you out of jail or anything, but when you get out.
We don't have to be your first phone call.
Right.
But just when you get out.
Right.
So we all know that, every place has a story about a haunted asylum or an orphanage that burned down or something like that. And of course, Zombie Road's no different. This one is documented, though. Whispering Oaks is a care facility of some sort. I really haven't been able to nail down exactly what they did, but it's their entrance is right across the street from an entrance to get to Zombie Road. And their patients or clients, they would frequently walk up and down Ridge Road, which is where I lived, and they would be in hospital gowns. We had a guy that they called Zombie because he would be in a gown and he would just wander up and down the road. And so the story goes with him is that they found, like, he disappeared and they found a bloody hospital gown at Ridge Meadows School entrance there, where Lawler Ford Road, which is also now Olive Foster Trail, starts. It's a lot to keep track of. So in any case, in 2014, they found that the plumbing hadn't worked for quite some time. There was human waste all over the floor. The patients were covered. The toilets didn't work at all. There wasn't clean drinking water. And they shut that down. But how long was that going on? I mean, obviously,
how could you be a worker and work in that environment?
Right.
It is bizarre. And it's this place, it almost feels like it's got some kind of a pull on people where they maybe just, don't think quite straight like they should. So we talk often about, strange deaths, bizarre suicides, tragedies causing hauntings. So we can roll through some of these. So we talked about the railroad worker at the cabin. So this was in the early 1900s, and he and his wife were living in a little stone hut. You can still see the foundation of it. And of course, you can walk down there on a trail, but there's a little sign that says, "We're protecting the environment. You can't go back here." So whatever. If you can tell, I'm kind of done with all these stupid rules.
I love it because I'm the same thing. It's like if it says do not go down there, that's the first one to start walking down there.
It's ridiculous. But in any case, this guy apparently was a heavy drinker and a hard luck gambler and pretty much lost everything. And he was playing with his quote unquote friends that just fleeced him every week. And they challenged him to bet his wife. And, he kind of resisted, and she was kind of like, okay. I mean, I'm kind of cool with that. And he bet her and lost, and she was happy and left with one of the other men. So obviously it's disgusting that you would bet your wife or that somebody would ask you to do that, but the story's the story. So in any case, he went home and, just finished his bottle of gin and hung himself in the cabin.
That's awful. How long is Zombie Road, the trail?
Oh my goodness. That's a matter of dispute, because sometimes people say, oh, it includes this part of Castlewood Park. Some people say Castlewood Park doesn't count or whatever. But if you're going from Kay's house, which is actually at the far eastern end of the railroad tracks where Zombie Road starts. It's an extremely haunted house that we'll talk about. And then you go all the way to Glencoe. I think that's about 2.5 to like 2.8 miles.
Okay.
So it's quite a hike. If you're going, though, it's easy. It's very level. It's very paved. So it's good to go.
Good deal.
So September 22nd, 1948 at 5:10 p.m., a 3-year-old, well, like 2 3/4-year-old girl was hit by a train right at the crossing right there when you go into Sherman to get to Zombie Road. So it was the town, is very close, and it just devastated everybody. And you can imagine, a tragic death like that, what that might leave behind.
Yeah.
How sad.
Yeah, it's probably the saddest story from here. We'll get to more. You guys make your decision, let them know, and they'll tell us what you guys think the saddest ones were. But it's just so weird. So Christmas in the early 1960s, a couple wanted to go up on the bluffs and get a look, with the snow and all the trees missing their leaves and everything. And the male, he got real close to the cliff and slipped. Well, he fell off, and on the way down, like his neck and his jaw got caught in the V of a tree, and it apparently ripped most of his face off.
No.
And so his girlfriend had to, run and get help, but it's not a cell phone. And she basically had to run like a mile to get to their car so she could drive somewhere and, call for help. So,
my God, I can't. I can't even imagine, because, I mean, you said about the little girl, and we know that toddlers are tricky. So, sometimes, they'll learn how to unlock doors. They'll learn how to do all kinds of things. Well, back in that time frame, we weren't into locking our doors. So all she'd have to do is just go turn the knob and go out, And so I imagine that's how she got out, is just,
it wasn't negligence. It was just, man, I mean, my little girl
happens today.
So,
them little kids are smart, boy. They'll learn how to unlock deadbolts and everything else. It's like you kind of have to find the ones where you have to unlock them with the keys and not have the knobs. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you have to lock them with the keys so they won't get out. But the other thing is can you imagine how this woman felt watching him basically die? That's what I'm going to say. He's either died or is going to in that tree, and she has to run a complete mile. Not all of us can run a 5-minute mile. I'm just saying it's going to take us, and all that time she's got to think about what has happened just the whole entire time, and then get in the car and then drive somewhere to get somebody. That's a whole lot of time to think about what happened.
Yeah.
And there's people that would just curl up in a ball and not be able to, deal with it, have a panic attack. And you just don't know until something like that happens. And hopefully none of us ever have to experience anything.
Yeah, I know. I just, it's just what you're talking about is all that energy is just in the ground. It's in the ground.
It is.
Yeah.
So July 28th, 1968, Thomas Presley was walking along the tracks and drinking, which I can't say I haven't done, a few times, but he went by himself and, apparently got tipsy, wanted to sit down, and fell asleep on the tracks. And
oh no,
he was hit by a train. And this is all within, a quarter mile of each other, probably less on the train track.
Oh,
That's awful.
And it just continues. So summer in the early 70s, a grandpa and his kid were out. You guys know what trot lines are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't know, it's basically you just put out a line and you put a bunch of hooks on it, and hopefully you get big catfish and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Grandpa was teaching his grandson how to do that, and they were pulling the line in, and Grandpa was, happy, like, oh my gosh, this is heavy. We got a bunch of catfish. And what they would do, they'd just bring the gas fryer right down to the gravel bar, and everybody would go down and have a fish fry.
Mm-hmm.
Not today. So he kept pulling, and then up popped a body. It was the body of a canoeer who had died a month earlier, and they found his 3 people died, and they found the other 2, but not this guy. And so, this young kid sees a body pulled up on a trot line.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? And just let everybody know too, like this particular river, it's known for a lot of the undertows and things like that. And people float it. They do float trips on this river. And it's not the safest one to do a float trip on, but no. I've kayaked down the Merrimack, not in that area, but more up towards, Sullivan, Crawford County area. I've done it up there, but it's still, even there, there's a lot of the undertones. So people they drown frequently in that river.
Yeah.
It's amazing that people haven't seemed to learn. Like there's so many deaths, and we will cover, we'll just run through some, but it's just crazy. So Wolf Trail, this same young man that had pulled up the, the dead canoeer, he was scouting. Everybody down there were big time hunters, bow hunters, rifle hunters, everything. And so he was out scouting, and there was, it's Wolf Trail now. It was a gravel logging road at the time, but he heard a Hemi, and he remembered being like, oh man, that sounds cool. Like the low grumble and all that. And he got up out of the woods and saw that there was a hose going from one of the exhaust pipes into the window. So he goes, and he said the door was locked and he couldn't reach in, couldn't get his arm in the window where the hose was. So he had to take a rock and break the window and pulled the guy out. And then he had to run to a house about a half mile away to call 911.
Wow.
And we believe that he was dead when he was pulled out of the car, but we don't know for sure. So.
Well, and here's the thing too, like that area, I mean, there's really nice houses and stuff. It's a nice area, of St. Louis. It's not like, you think, from what he's talking about, this happened, that happened. It's not a rundown bad part of St. Louis at all.
No. So at the end of Lawler Ford, there used to be a gravel plant, and there were 3 boys that were jumping off the old platform down there. And I had never heard of anybody doing that, like any of the locals or anybody doing it right there. And one of them jumped in and started to struggle, and the other 2 jumped in to help, and they all died.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's unending. So May 17th, 1988, Troy Livesay was electrocuted at a utility pole at the intersection of First Street and Crest. Apparently, he had been hired as a tree trimmer and wanted to practice climbing. And I don't know why he didn't pick a tree, but he touched one of the lines and was electrocuted.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's what I mean. It's just all manner of strange and bizarre deaths.
Right.
So 1990, Darren Ferris of Barnhart drowned in the Merrimack. Let's see, 4/29/93, there was a plane crash where Dieter Voss and Frank Bischoff died. They crashed their Cessna. So here's the thing that brings up for me. If you're doing an EVP on Zombie Road and you hear German, you might just dismiss it or be like, well, that's stupid. We're in America or whatever.
Mhm.
Well, you never know.
Right.
So in 93, Randy Bauer drowned there. Now here's where we get to the craziest story with Zombie Road. All right. So this is the murder of Shirley Ann Crook. A horrible murder, but it had worldwide repercussions, and nobody ever talks about that. Christopher Simmons was 17 years old. He was with Charlie Benjamin and John Tesmer, who were 15 and 16. They discussed that they wanted to just find somebody to murder. Just something that a 17-year-old kid thinks of.
Just bad people.
It's awful. And they thought, well, we're just kids, so they'll just put us away until we're 18 and we'll get out. And it's horrifying. So this actually happened in it was Jefferson County. But in any case, so they broke into her house, they beat her, they tied her up with rope and duct tape, they put her in her van, because they walked to her house and drove her to Sherman, put her up on the bridge that goes right over the Merrimack River. They made sure she was taped up real good and threw her in. And she drowned right there. They found her body, and apparently the kids had said that they thought that she was dead, but they found water in her lungs. So, obviously.
Man, that's awful.
Yeah.
She was
so. Yeah, I mean, and they just picked Zombie Road. I don't know why. So Simmons is arrested at school. He confessed to the murder. He was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to the death penalty. A 17-year-old was sentenced to the death penalty.
Yes, I remember. Yes.
This went back and forth in Missouri courts, and they tried to uphold it. And eventually there was just pressure from around the world, celebrities saying, oh, if you do that, you're going to be just like Pakistan and Iran and a couple other countries that still execute minors. And it was commuted to life. So it's, I mean, worldwide repercussions.
And this is all of these terrible things happen with just a few miles. Like it seems like I've walked Zombie Road several times, and it's hard to imagine that these tragic things happen like in this area.
I mean, you can't throw a rock without hitting something bad that happened. We're at 1996 now, so Deborah Steinbach, skeletal remains found. They have no idea how she died. No investigation. No nothing. Just, okay, well, she's dead. So that went nowhere. In 1999, Jessica Blair of Chesterfield was hit by an Amtrak on the Union Pacific trestle crossing Kiefer Creek, which, again, this would be going into Castlewood Park. Some people consider that part of Zombie Road. Some don't, but it's pretty darn close. Yeah. So apparently she pushed her son out of the way, and he was saved, but she died. I looked and looked and looked because there was a rumor that she was deaf. So I could not verify that, but that would make a lot of sense. And if anybody wants to play on train tracks, just remember that they're a lot faster than they look. They will be up on you in no time.
Absolutely.
William Foster of Lawndale, Missouri, on December 27th, his body was found at the base of the cliffs, and no more reports, just that somebody died. It's hard to find reports on this stuff. And I have connections with the local police department. So
Wow.
in any case, 04, 19-year-old male drowned. 05, Jeffrey Link was found at the 100 block of Log Trail, and it just says death does not appear to be foul play. Kent Cross was hit by a large tree limb during a storm in the parking area and died in 2006. So, I mean, like I said, just every kind of bizarre death you can think of.
Yeah, like weird, like I don't even know.
Like Final Destination.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like Final Destination. Everything that's weird. Yeah.
Right.
In 06, 5 kids from St. Louis Dream Center drowned. That again was in Castlewood. They were sponsored by Joyce Meyer Ministries. We've got 3 more drownings in 06, Isaiah Green in 07, 2 in 2011, 1 in 2012, 3 in June of 2016, a mom who died trying to save her best friend's daughter died in 2018, and it just goes on and on. I mean, I could go over everything, but we'd be here forever.
Right.
There's been over 50 strange and bizarre unexplained deaths that have happened down there that we're documenting. So
Wow.
Do you have, I mean, we had somebody ask, Danny Buckner in our chat was asking overall how many were killed there. Do you know? Or, I mean, do we have a number?
Well, okay. So we can't know indigenous people. We can't really know the gangsters that died there. Going over this, I have about 50, I think, that I cover. So 50 deaths aside from any indigenous or gangster activity.
So that's all in that like 2.8 miles that you were talking about, correct?
Correct.
Oh boy.
Correct.
That's crazy. That is crazy. You know, Brandy, I got to say something here really quick.
Sure.
So you are coming up to St. Louis this weekend. You know what? We should take a walk on Sunday.
We may have to. We may have to, if it's nice enough and we've got the time. Yeah, absolutely. I want to do it. Only because, I mean, there are so many fascinating things out there just during the daytime looking around. I can't imagine what it'd look like at nighttime.
Yeah, I did. Me and my girls went out there and walked it during the day one time. And well, that's the only time you can go. But I actually filmed it. Brandy, we did a live show while I was walking Zombie Road. I mean, nothing wonky happened or anything like that. And it's on our members only section. But yeah, it was pretty cool. So I know Brandy's never been there, and I'd love to get her there. So
I know. I was surprised with the history, especially what you're saying. With all this history that people just say, we're just going to walk these paths and have a good time, get our exercise. And I'm like,
I don't know if they know.
Jay, I was told, so Brandy and we joined Haunted Soulz Paranormal. And we have an event this weekend. It's at the Emmaus Village in Marthasville. Are you familiar with that place?
I think I've seen advertisements. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you who else is on the group that you know and that you were on the group with before is Jeremy King.
Okay. Jeremy King.
Yes.
Love Jeremy.
So anyway, I was just told in chat to invite you to Emmaus this weekend, Friday or Saturday. We will be there.
Yes.
We have a private
event. Krista will be there on Friday. I will be there on Saturday. So
yeah, I don't know what I have going on, honestly. I would love to go out there and check it out.
Just let me know. Just stay
kind of short notice.
And let me know. Yeah. Yep.
All right. So the last one that I think I have here is Carol Schulte in 2022, a 72-year-old hiker from Baldwin disappeared right at the trailhead there in Glencoe. Well, that's where she was last seen. We don't know where she went from there, but was found downstream underwater. So The Missouri State Highway Patrol says 14 deaths tied to boat and drowning incidents since the beginning of 2022. So that's 14 in 3 years.
Holy cow. Like,
right.
So with all of these deaths, I mean, obviously, like, you can't have that many deaths and not be haunted. And, and I know that you were part of a documentary out there on Zombie Road.
Well, yeah. Are you talking about the Booth Brothers film?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I know there was some really cool stuff captured out there during.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely had that plan to talk about. But
awesome.
One of the things that was really neat is Keith Age had a good FLIR at the time. And this would have been, I want to say like 2007, somewhere in there.
Right.
When people just didn't really have that stuff. And he was able to kind of, the angle he was filming at, he was like on the trail, and I can't remember who was walking out into the woods, but they were walking out, and then he saw the, I guess, shadow people is what we would describe them as, kind of coming up. He saw like 3 or 4 of them on the camera. And I don't know if it ever ended up in the movie or not, but it was a really eye-opening experience when, you have somebody that has advanced equipment like that at the time. So, yeah, so it was fun. And we did get a lot of access. So that was great.
But at the time, though, wasn't it, you could be there after hours?
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure we had to get permission from Wildwood. Now, they didn't send an escort with us, but yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't quote me on it. There's a lot I've forgotten over the years.
So Haunted Soulz said it made the film, so it was in the film.
Okay.
Well, and then the next comment from them is, I own it.
Awesome.
Owns it.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. We worked on a film with them about the exorcism of Roland Doe too. That was a lot of fun. So
very cool.
But all right. So you guys ready for some hauntings?
Yes.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So the Kay's house, like I mentioned, is at the far eastern end. This is another place that you will get arrested if you go to. We had access a couple times. It was really cool. My aunt by marriage grew up in the house, and as well as her little sister. And this house is, the way it's situated, it's a big old farmhouse that's kind of built onto what was like a stone kind of old house, not like medieval or anything like that, but just, old. There's a spring house there where they would keep, meats and stuff like that, a corn crib, the railroad tracks are in the front yard, and then there's a huge wooded hill behind them. So that will be important for some of this. In any case, there's all kinds of stuff going on in that house. So Edie is the younger of the 2 sisters. And I believe that these 2 girls are sensitive because I know they wouldn't lie. And I can't imagine that they dreamed all this stuff, and they corroborate what each other say. So Edie's lying in her bed. She's got, moonlight in the room. And then she sees a little black ball float out of the wall. And she was real young. She was like 5, I think, at this time. And she said that it just grew. So it got to be the size of a basketball. And then she said arms started to come out and legs started to come out. And I actually have an audio interview where I think she says it just formed into the perfect man. And then when I screamed, it all happened backwards in an instant, and it went right back into the wall and disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah. So same house. These girls are in the spring house. and they decided they wanted to have a seance. And they had seen, you know, how things are done where they chant and, you know, there's candles and such. And so they did their own little version of it. But this story is told by Edie as well, that as they were chanting, nobody's supposed to open her eyes, but she opened her eyes and looked at a lady named Eleanor and said that her face was turning into a man's face. Like it was kind of going in and out of looking like her and then looking like a man. And again, she screamed and ran, and everybody else made fun of her, but who knows? I mean, if you're starting to look like someone else, do you think that's someone trying to possess you, or what do you guys think?
Good question.
Yeah. I mean, everything that I've read, that I've seen, everything like that would lead to that. You know, with the facial structure actually changing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think too. So, you know, they made fun of her, but she may have saved them from some bad times.
Yeah.
So they had another entity in this house that they called Old Blue. And this was basically a big blue fiery core that had kind of black legs and arms. And both girls said that when they would hear it, it would sound like, well, let me rephrase everything. Okay, so it had normal legs for a ghost human outline, if that makes sense. But when it moved, it had a tap and a drag, like it had a paralyzed leg or a peg leg, and it was dragging the other foot across the floor. So super weird. Doesn't seem like something that someone would make up, you know, that it looks different than it sounds. So, but there was a time that it kind of trapped them in the pantry, and they had a pantry that had the slats in it, and they said that they just saw this big blue hand reaching for the door, and for some reason the hand was webbed. So no idea why, but then their dad came in and yelled for him, and it just kind of hobbled off. So and that's the one they blame for messing up all the furniture and, you know, putting out the pots and pans and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Wow.
Same house, the Mummy. So this is a guy that is described as wrapped in kind of burning bandages and looks like he's in a straitjacket. And instead of walking, it just kind of floats and drags its toes on the floor. And they said that this one only appeared in the stone part of the house. It never came into the other part of the house. So they just stayed out and it never bothered them.
Wow.
You ready for BEK?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Same house. So autumn day, these girls and a bunch of their friends are playing hide and seek. And again, young Edie was hiding up on the hill, and her friend Terry was down the hill at the house counting. And so she's hiding, but peeking out, you know, from behind the tree, doing a little Bigfoot tree peek and keeping an eye on him. And she happens to glance back, and he's standing right there. And she says, she just screamed out, "Terry, you cheated." And then she noticed that his eyes were completely black. There was no pupils, no color, no nothing, just completely black.
Wow.
She looked back down the hill and saw that Terry was still down there counting. She looked back at the kid. He looked different and laughed and ran off into the woods.
What do you mean by look different? Did he look like a different person?
He looked like it didn't look like Terry anymore.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And this one, yeah, again, when in the interview, she said this was the scariest moment of her life. I can imagine. Kind
of like shape shifted in a way. I mean,
I don't know. She didn't say shape shifted. Like she didn't say that it was a taller, shorter, heavier, skinnier, just
She said it just
a
didn't
different
look like him
face.
anymore.
It wasn't Terry anymore, is how she described it.
Oh,
So,
okay, that's scary enough. Okay.
all right.
That's scary enough, thanks.
So Haunted Soulz says it's the only Black-Eyed Kids case in Missouri that was documented. That's interesting.
Yeah, the Black-Eyed Kids are so incredibly interesting, but yeah, so hard to track down.
Mm-hmm.
And now that kids can get these contacts, I'm surprised that there's not more stories out there.
True story.
That's what I would have been doing as a kid.
Yeah, the stories that we hear about, Black-Eyed Kids are very vague. They're super vague. Like, yeah, they tried to get in my car, or they tried to, get me to open the door, or blah, blah, blah. Well, of course you're not going to hear about if you let them in.
Right.
Well, you hear a lot of stories that even if you didn't let them in, a lot of these people get sick and
yes,
after. So
yeah, but that's what I mean. I mean, of course you're not going to hear about that.
Right. Exactly.
That's wow.
She never reported like any kind of sickness or anything from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that, that was part of her experience, but yeah, you hear that all the time.
That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now the Black-Eyed Kids scare me. Them and aliens, I don't want any part of.
Because I don't know how I don't know how to classify them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because of course everything's paranormal. Okay, it's something that science can't, figure out. We got it. Everything's paranormal, but I can't decide if they're on the ghost side, or are they more on the cryptid side, or what? Because when I talk about shape shifting, it's like they can appear like someone else. I mean, even though it's not something extravagant like going from a werewolf to a person, but it is shape shifting in a way. So I don't really know how to classify them. So I wouldn't know how to approach, a situation. You know what I mean?
Right.
I really wouldn't. And even in investigating, I wouldn't really know how to. Yeah. Because they got a lot of strange, things. Strange things they do. So I wouldn't know how to classify them. I mean, are they demonic? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great mystery. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got the Monkey Man I talked about. So this
the Monkey Man.
This was reported. I believe I got this report off of PTF. So I was not. I think I may have been with the group at this time, but I was not on this particular trip. But in any case, they described a shadowy figure that was able to run to the edge of the cliff. And if I'm remembering the story correctly, he basically ran straight down the cliff like he was running on level ground, and then ran out into the middle of the trail, and then did the same thing on the other side and went up. So
how do you do that? How can you just because you would have to be running at an angle straight down. Because you know how we look, we're trying to get up, especially us old folks. I'm just going to go there. How we're trying to get up a hill and get down a hill. It takes a minute. But for somebody for somebody to run as if they were on level ground, that had to look really weird. That had to look weird.
Yeah, it was described as the Monkey Man. It sounds like some form of a shadow person, perhaps. I mean, I don't know, but I like Monkey Man. I like the name Monkey Man, so I kind of stuck with that. So same group, and one of the ladies that was walking claimed that she was touched by the Flannel Man, and that he kind of went for an inappropriate part of her body and then disappeared behind a tree. So I don't know, what do you guys think about Flannel Man? I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence.
Why do they call it Flannel Man?
Yeah, because he wears a flannel.
That's it.
That's it.
Very simple.
Man sounds like a creepy kind of guy. If he's
right, like a
touching
creepy,
people inappropriately.
a living, breathing creeper. Is what that sounds like.
I
That's
mean,
what it sounds like. You know, that flannel guy.
Yeah.
You know,
especially if he's like touching people inappropriately. I mean, there's yeah. Wonder what he was like in life. He's probably like that in life.
Right. I mean, there have been, haunted locations that I've been in where people have been touched inappropriately.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
sure.
But like Krista said, I think if they're like that in life, they're probably like that in death.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So I'm assuming that it wasn't a great person to begin with.
Right.
Probably not. I'm hoping that people aren't listening to this and being like, you can get away with that down there? I'm going to go give that a shot. Get my flannel, hon. I'm going on a walk. Yeah, y'all better watch out if you go down there Sunday.
I know. Mm-hmm. I know. That's something else, though. I mean, it's just kind of like, there are so many stories that we always talk about folklore and how some of these stories are made up and blah, blah, blah. But folklore, there's always a little bit of tiny truth in some of this. But what's that truth? And I'm like, man, if any of that is truthful, it's scary enough,
Yeah.
To see a guy walking around in flannel that's not alive, that's kind of scary. But then to have somebody touch you inappropriately and they're not alive, well, that's in a category all its own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would that make them an incubus? I don't know.
I think as long as they're, if the deed hasn't been done, then I don't think so. I think they're.
I don't think so.
Fair enough. All right.
I would call it a name, but I can't use that on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah,
Lisa says Handsy Man. I agree.
Handsy Man. Great.
That's better.
I love that. Handsy Man. Yeah.
Well, that describes a lot of people. You can't really narrow that down. That's kind of most men are like that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this day and age, a lot of men wear flannel too. So that, I mean, any which one works for me, I guess. I don't know. I just can't imagine. I mean, you're telling me all these stories and it's really like, wow. I mean, a lot of people don't know this history. I guess that's why they feel so comfortable just taking the family out there for a nice leisurely walk.
Seriously, if you go out there like during the day, and people that's in chat that have no idea like this road, it is literally there's a lot of people out there. Their kids are riding their little bikes, they're walking their dogs, there's ladies, jogging, and it's literally like, and I wonder if these people even have half an inkling of what's happened. Not just the ghost, the paranormal side of it, but just the morbid, all the death side of it. That's happened on that area.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't even know. I
mean, like I said, what do you do?
Well, I look for the weird stuff everywhere I go. So, I mean, for me, it's just only second nature, but these people have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't put that on the signs, do they? They tell you, oh, we've got the dogwood tree. It's Missouri's, state tree. Fertilized by indigenous people and gangsters. So
right, I'm pretty sure a lot of bad things happened out there. And you're right, even when it comes to that part of the story where, you've got gangsters and everything out there, that would be the perfect place. Because, the cops couldn't really sneak up on them. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
They would have to either come by train or they weren't getting out there.
Yeah.
Right.
So about 25 years ago, my dad's house out there on Crest Drive that kind of overlooks Zombie. You can't quite see it from the house, but the guy that he bought the house from, Augie Forey, he made a disclosure that when he put in a garage, it was really like an awesome shed, but he called it a garage. But when he was digging out for the foundation, he found 3 bodies. And they had stone tools, or what he thought were stone tools, but there were no arrowheads. And so he called the cops. The cops said, okay, these are hundreds of years old. This is, not our case. Called the university. I don't know what university it was, but he wanted to know, like, hey, what'd you find out? I need to know who was buried in my yard, so I know how to deal with the ghosts. Nobody would even acknowledge that it ever happened. They're like, we don't know who you are. We don't know what you're talking about. No one's ever been out there. So
Wow,
that's strange. That's very strange. Because I would think that they'd be all over it, because of course, St. Louis used to be called Mound City way back when, because they had Indian burial mounds everywhere, and I would assume that they would come out and at least try to investigate to see, if it had any historical value. I would think that they would come do that.
Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right, unless it had something that didn't go along with the narrative they want to push. Because we know that there were cliff-dwelling giants on the Gasconade River. It's proven in Puckett's Cave. They found like a 8.5 foot tall giant. It's not even disputed, and no one even knows about it. It's crazy.
Wow, that's crazy. And I think the Gasconade doesn't run into the Merrimack. Never mind. I thought it did.
Yeah, it's not far.
Yeah, I was going to say it's very close. I mean,
if you were a giant, you could walk it.
easily. I mean, that would be something to definitely look into. To see, I mean, do they have like pictures or any reports, information on that, or is it just kind of all hidden?
Well, the reports that I found, there is a picture of a doctor who examined the skeleton laying alongside it, and you can see, the person in the picture says they're 5'10" or 6 foot or whatever, and you can tell that this thing's clearly 2 foot taller. And that's the only picture that I could find. I believe that it's a real picture. I don't think it's photoshopped, and I wasn't able to find any sites that are like, oh, this is fake. Sure. This is fake, like they do about everything else. So
yeah. Wow. I have a question about some of the pictures that we've all seen that come from Zombie Road. And we talked about, I think it was backstage, about the one with all the people standing on the cliff. Who do you think they all were? Like, where they came from, or, do you think they were part of Native American? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, that picture is taken as children. It's kids. It's kids on the hill. Is it? I don't know. I mean, I haven't done an analysis of how tall the tree is. It's hard with perspective. They could be, 6.5 foot tall, and just from the angle, they look like kids. My thought is that the shadow people are probably like indigenous, maybe medicine men, or people that maybe didn't live like they kind of were supposed to, maybe warriors that were, because back then it was all about honor, dishonored in battle, maybe people that, were seen as cowards or betrayed their tribe. That's what I get, because I feel like that would be a way that you would come back. You're naturally stealthy, you're in tune with your environment, you're at home in the forest. So that's my thought. I don't have a definite.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Krista, do we have a copy of that picture we can throw up real quick? I mean, because everybody out there that's listening has heard all the stories that Jay had talked about, all this stuff that's happening within this 2.8 miles, right? And this picture was taken right there in the same area, except if you notice, there's people standing by the trees, but if you look in the water, there's nobody's reflection in the water.
So I did find the picture here, and just let everybody know, it is from Paranormal Task Force.
Yes.
Credit for the picture.
Right.
But, whatever you want me to put it up, I'll put it up.
Yeah, go ahead. So, and let everybody decide what, from the stories that we were listening to tonight. I mean, who do you think they are? Because look in the water. There's still reflection of people in the water.
Mm-mm.
And that's not at the river. It's really close, but the water you're seeing is basically from a heavy rain or a light flood.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the Merrimack that you're seeing. If you were to turn like 45 degrees to your left, I believe you would be facing the Merrimack River directly. And this is pretty close, almost right where the old gravel plant was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I this way that everybody can look at the photo and make up their own mind. Because nobody knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Krista, did you just happen to have that picture, or did you go on PTF?
I did. No, I happen to have that picture, but it was from PTF. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was going to say, because there's a couple other pictures in there that are from Kay's house. One of them, and they're both also taken by Tom Halstead.
Mm-hmm.
There is one where there is a blue, what very well could be Old Blue, going up the steps in the house where the girls described what the picture looks like. And there's a very similar picture of what looks very similar to the mummy that they described.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, real quick, let me answer that question. Ivy says, I somehow ended up watching this tonight. This makes me miss Tom Halstead. He took that picture, didn't he? This makes me smile. Yes, he did.
Yes. Yes, he did.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So do you want some Bigfoot stories?
Of
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
got just a couple. I don't want to keep you up too late.
Mm-hmm.
So same boy that pulled up the corpse on the trot line and found the man who was in the car that had tried to kill himself or succeeded. So this is going to be at Kay's house, which we're just describing. And they were just, shooting their bow and arrows, and they saw a deer kind of come out in the clearing. Now, nobody poaches or anything like that, but they were thinking, it's a deer. Perfect. You know how, young men are, young boys. Anyway, so it runs out and just kind of stops. And they're like, what? That's weird. Why was it like bolting and then stop? They looked over where it came from, and they thought that there was a bear there. And, at this time, there may have been some black bears, probably not many, but no brown bears out here. But that's just where your brain goes. And they said it stepped out of the brush and then went down to all fours. Now, here's the thing. I was watching Transformers with this man years later. And when I don't know if you all have watched Transformers, but they don't go down to all fours. They transform into cars. And he said that's what it looked like. It didn't look like, if a dog is, on hind legs, or a bear going down, it looked like it transformed and then took off after the deer. They jumped in the car and took off, and it gave them a good little bluff charge and then went off into the woods. And this is before, like, now there's a horse place there and like a concrete company, but it would have been all woods at this time.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Very interesting.
So we also have had a lot of the weird barred owl calls. My whole life I've heard. They have a natural cadence that they follow, and Sasquatch are said to try and copy the sounds, but they don't always do it right, and it's pretty easy to pick out. So I would hear that all the time, and especially on the gravel bar. So,
and Bigfoot, they follow water, and you have the water right there. So
absolutely, and there's a lot of other Bigfoot stories out there. I feel like right now there's probably not much of a chance of finding a Sasquatch unless it's coming out of a wormhole or a portal. down there anyway. So,
Yeah.
but if you're looking at the wood ape theory, they're probably not down there much anymore. But yeah, you have questions?
Wow, where do we begin?
I know.
How often do you get down there now? Do you still,
A few times a year. I like to, keep up to date on things. Normally, I do a free tour of Zombie Road like the weekend before Halloween.
Oh,
so
that's very cool.
Yeah, so I get down there usually at least a week or two before that and just make sure everything's like I remember, and then a couple times in the summer.
Yeah,
because you have to note the changes too. I mean, if they add a new trail or clean up something, or you got to keep up with that. The history is the history, and you have to keep up on it. Because a lot of people talk about the history of the normal things, but the weird stuff, I guess, is left to us.
Yeah. Amy,
that's how I like it.
Amy says that you're a great guest, super thorough and organized.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that.
She's sweet.
I'm trying to stay awake. I NyQuil and caffeine is a weird combination. Got a little cough going on, so
gotcha.
I did too. That's why I keep blacking out, is because I start coughing and then I'm like, oh wait, hang on, just a minute. Nobody wants to hear that. Our weather has an issue.
Yeah, it's wonky here.
it's got a real big issue.
Oh, go ahead, Brent.
I was just gonna say, if there was a place like during the day, if somebody was going to walk, I mean, what would you say would be the coolest place in that stretch of road?
It depends on how long you want to walk. It's a great bike ride too, because you can always stop on your bike. But it's nice if you get tired, it's level, so you can pedal in and out pretty good. So you would probably want to park at Sherman Beach Park, and that's going to be, I want to say 15912 St. Paul Road, Baldwin, Missouri, I think.
Wow.
So you can park there. You can bring your bike.
I'm writing that address down.
I'm writing that down. Hold on just a second. You're going to have to say it again.
Don't quote me on the 15912, but it's definitely St. Paul Road. Sherman Beach Park. So yeah, you want to park down there, and from there you can either, I suggest going to the gravel bar, because that's kind of straight out. I think it's really pretty. I spent a lot of time there. Sometimes people jump off the bridge down there. Sometimes they don't come up. I was actually filming for something that I want to produce, and this was a long time ago. I happened to go down there, and there was people jumping off the bridge. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is amazing. Like the day I come down here, because I'm not jumping off it again. But, it's great to have that footage. But, and then you can, if you want easy, go to your right, and that will take you down Al Foster Trail and a lot of the sites that we talked about. And if you want a little bit more of a challenge, go to your left, and that will take you down towards Castlewood Park. Don't get in the water. I mean, Sherman Beach isn't too bad if you go to under the bridge, but anywhere past that is death. Please do not go down there, because it's not all kids that have drowned. There's experienced swimmers and stuff like that. But
wow.
Well, I wonder why they don't have any no swimming signs, or post that. Oh, they do, and they post the dangers of the undercurrent and all that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
it's the same people that say you're not allowed to smoke in a 500-acre park, but the way I see it, if it's me, once there's water, you don't own it. I'm sorry, you can't own the river.
You don't.
But don't swim there. Go to a pool.
Yeah.
Go to a pool. But I'm gonna have to see if it's on the website. CrypticPod.com might have a map up. I will send you guys a map. Maybe you can put it up where I actually have all the spots marked in the event that happened there. So they can, if somebody wants to print it out, they can actually look at it and say, okay, well, he talked about this. This is where that happened. And okay, I'm right here. This is where that happened. And if you're interested, we do have a companion podcast that you can just pop on and walk along the trail and listen to too. So
awesome. That's pretty cool.
Very cool. I want to remind everybody too, it's showing right now, we're showing 69 people watching the show live in the chat. However, there are, as of right now, 211 people actually watching the show. So if everybody would go and subscribe to Jay's channel, I've been dropping it in chat. We'd very much appreciate it. And I'm sure.
Yeah. And then if you're out there listening and have not subscribed to Blondes and Booze, to us, come on. Subscribe, give us that like button. Come on, hit the notification bell. Every little bit helps.
Sure.
Right. But now that we just have a few minutes, we got about 15 minutes. I want to talk about other things that you have been involved in. I mean, we just have 15 minutes, and I know you could probably talk to us about another 6-7 hours about it. But what other things are you looking into investigating, or anything in the St. Louis area or anything around there?
Okay, so what I'm wanting to do is to create a VR experience at investigation sites. I want to have people to be able to put on a meta or whatever and be there. I want them to be able to select what EVP question we ask. I want them to be able to press a button over here and see a reenactment of, a haunting that happened there. I want them to be able to select a different mode where there's jump scares or not, stuff like that. So that's what I want to get into. We're talking Lemp Mansion, obviously. I've been there, but I want to do a real investigation. I went there with PTF with like 30 people. So
right.
Sally House, I want to get to lots of Bigfoot stuff. 7 Gates of Hell. But yeah, that's kind of all I got right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, sometime you need to come over to Emmaus Village there in Marthasville. It's a heck of a location. And then we'll also do Arcadia. Okay. You've been down there?
Arcadia Academy. Yes, absolutely.
That's another fantastic location.
But Krista, can you believe that if somebody could to virtual reality, they're watching us do what we do on the weekly basis. I mean, can you imagine?
I think it would be successful. I really do. And some of the problem might be, well, you can film that here, but we want to cut. You know what I mean? Some of the places you go to. And then there's limitations with what you can do outside in the dark. But heck, give it a shot. Nobody's doing it. Let's do it. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
So let me ask you a question.
What's the money?
This is something that, I'm curious. I actually, when I met you, we were at a little, what do you call it? It was just a meeting. It's kind of a meet and greet at the library about Bigfoot. And what are your thoughts? Now, I believe that, doing this, ghosts, like I said, has always been our passion. However, we're all into the cryptids now. We've been out, we do all that kind of stuff. And, Brandy and I were all about that these creatures were just like some unknown ape species out in the woods. And since then, our minds have changed. We believe that they're all kind of connected somehow. What are your beliefs about that?
Oh my goodness. So many different possibilities, especially when we're talking people describing different races, basically. One looks like Patty. In West Texas, they look like chimpanzees. The skunk ape in Florida. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe some are, shamans that turned back and said, I'm not doing any kind of society. I'm, going completely back to nature. It could be aliens. It could be wood apes. I tend to, when in doubt, I side with the indigenous people, and they say that they are just a separate tribe, a different race of humans, basically. So if if I had to put money on it, I'm going with them.
Gotcha.
And I do think that if you are planning on killing one, that could turn out really bad because, I mean, obviously, they could, come after you, whatever. But you find out that you killed a human. Oh, gosh. Yeah. I mean,
right.
Because, they'll do a DNA test.
Well, I will tell you, so we have Small Town Monsters. Our friend Heather Mosier is a producer for them. And they literally here in the last week or two just put out one of their shows about a man who killed 2 Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. And oh yeah, I'll send you the link. I mean, they're right. Fantastic anyway. But yeah, that's really interesting. So people, they say,
Yeah, I mean, the whole killing a Bigfoot thing, I don't unless you're put in a position
right
where you know that it's imminent, you're going to have to do something. I don't know what would possess somebody to do it. I would be in awe. You know what I mean? If I, with that right up close, I mean, the experience I had was close enough and it scared the crap out of me. I wasn't moving, you know what I mean? But if I had that face-to-face interaction, I don't know. I think
it's hard to look it in the eye.
I would think, well, I'm gone. I love everybody, but here we are, Bigfoot.
I know people who do research, Bigfoot and cryptids and stuff, and they say like the people who are attacked are the ones with the guns and who have pulled the trigger a lot. And maybe some of the missing 411 are some of those folks that actually did that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and and the thing is I do have protection when I go out. Always have protection when I go out. But it is not for things in the woods. It's more of the human kind,
right?
That I worry about. Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find something that's going to do much to something that's 800 pounds and moves like a cat. Right. I mean, bring one out. Like Ryan, my podcast partner. How you doing, buddy? He was talking about bringing a 357, for like mountain lions, and I'm like, I almost feel like you need a shotgun. It'd be pretty hard. You'd have to be a good shot if this thing's bouncing at you, jumping 30 feet at a time to just be calm enough to hit it with the 357. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, whatever you choose. I mean, you got a 50-50 chance.
Okay, well, here's the thing. There's not much out there that I think would take a Sasquatch out, but there is something that I think would be a pretty good deterrent. You get a 410 Judge revolver, and then you get some Dragon's Breath ammo, and that's not going to probably. It doesn't have a lot of stopping power, but what it does, whatever it hits, it catches on fire and just burns. So that's and I don't suggest that either. But that's the only thing that I can think of, unless you're carrying a 50 caliber or something and you're just a great shot.
Okay. So let's flip this coin. Mm-hmm. What if, what we have been talking about, that Bigfoot is something else, that it is not necessarily flesh and blood. Like Krista and I believe it's not all flesh and blood. Sure. There's something else attached to it.
Especially like Dogman.
Yeah, I mean, we've got all these different cryptids. I mean, would it even work? I mean, you could be standing there and just, nothing's working. You're just like, well, okay, here's my maker. I'll see you in a minute. I mean, it's just hang on. Let me just soak this vision in before I'm gone. I mean, how would you feel about that if you realized that at one point that it wouldn't work?
Well, I think that you would probably get zapped if it wanted to attack you. I don't think that it's something that has the ability to stun its prey like a tiger. Why wouldn't the tiger do that? It's just another tool in its arsenal. And I would think that a Sasquatch under duress would just do everything possible. And if you get hit with that and you can't do anything, I mean, I don't even know, like, can you think? I've heard stories where people are like, I just like disappeared for a couple minutes in my head, and then, like, oh, I'm still out in the woods. So
yeah, missing time is a real thing. We have several friends who actually have missing time.
Absolutely.
We have no idea where they were.
Yeah. Well, we not only have missing time, we have, like, I don't know. I just want to call it like maybe a time rip type thing, because, we would be walking through one place, and then, say the barn, let's go with that barn that we went through, or y'all went through. And then next thing you know, you were way off somewhere else that you shouldn't have been if you had just walked through the barn.
Yeah.
It was just like you ended up way off from where you should have been. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just all these weird things. I mean, because you were talking about portals and things like that. I mean, could it have been one of those? I mean, that's questionable. And do you think that these cryptid creatures travel through them?
Well, again, like you said, you've kind of had your mind changed, and I think I have too. I'm saying I don't know. There's a video of something that is cloaking like the predator, though, and that's crazy. And I don't know. This was shot, like on the first Sony Handycam. There's not, manipulation or anything. There's stories where people say that they're in Bigfoot territory. They're watching their buddy walk across a ridge, in night vision. All of a sudden, he turns into a ball. The ball goes flying across, and he ends up over here. And they're getting on the walkie with him, like, what happened? And he's like, what do you mean? They're like, you just turned into a freaking ball and flew across the bridge. What do you mean? So who knows?
Yeah. And because I had some friends that were, in the woods, and they were traipsing along, and they were being filmed at a little bit of a distance from a thermal. And they were watching them walking on the thermal, and then you just watch them fade out and they disappear, and then they end up all the way down from it. So, I mean, there's something strange. There's something strange going on, and I would just like to find a little bit of it, just a hair.
My thought is with Sasquatch is, I've never really heard of anyone getting killed. Like, just go out there and be respectful, and you can do your wood knocks and your call blasting, and if you do gifts or whatever, stuff like that. You really probably don't need to be afraid, because I believe there are way more places than we think, and they could come and get you whenever you want.
And yes. I want to reiterate that. So Brandy and I, we had a Bigfoot encounter last year, September of last year. And it's literally like I was in the tent on my cot, and it was right outside my tent, probably 5 feet from my head. So I sat up really quick, and I'm not gonna lie, it freaked me out. Like, I could hear it out there, and the way that the moon was shining, I saw the silhouette of it. Brandy, however, was sleeping in her car right outside of the tent. Brandy, and then you finish your part.
Well, real quickly, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but I heard somebody walking around, and I thought it was, one of the girls coming out of the tent, and we don't let anybody go to the bathroom by themselves. So always somebody's on the lookout, blah, blah, blah. But when I sat up, I didn't see anybody. I didn't see any lights. I didn't see anybody coming out of the tent. I didn't see anything. So then I just kind of scanned around, and I'm looking out my passenger side window, and right on the corner behind this tent, I seen it. And it was about 20 feet from me. It was right there. And I'll tell you what, I mean, when you were talking about if they want you, they're going to get you. And in that moment, when I looked at it, it was like, if it wanted me, it could have come, broke my window out of my car, ripped me out of my car, and had me in the woods before anybody got out of their tent.
And, that's the thing, it could have definitely had me. I was in a tent, and so
scooped you up and took you away.
Right. My head was right there, and I could hear it. I seen the shadow. I mean, freaking out a little bit. Like it wasn't human at all. And so what's really cool though is because that morning, and this was actually my encounter was at 3:12 in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And when this happened with Brandy and I, well, this creature actually walked through camp, and other people who were sleeping in their tents heard it as well. And so they looked at their phones too to see what time it was, and it was just crazy, like the time that it went down. And we actually have we found 18 or 14-inch impressions of this creature where it walked through our whole camp. I mean, it was amazing.
No
Again, it's Missouri, everybody.
Yep.
Anything could happen in Missouri. We're just telling you that.
It was in Ava, Missouri, where that happened, and it was a private location. But it was pretty incredible. You know, I mean, that was honestly, I can say my one and only Bigfoot, you know, encounter, and I'm ready for it again. You know.
Well, you're absolutely right about being in the car. Have you seen the chimp attack the police car in Florida? Yes. I mean, just no effort. He just jumps up and smashes the windshield. Yeah. And that's a 200-pound chimp. Imagine a 600-pound chimp or an 800-pound Bigfoot. They could flip your car over and pull you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole lot more to that story, but the thing was, it could have. It definitely could have. There would have been no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so it's just kind of like, I want to say that interaction with Krista and I that we had, that experience, we didn't see anything that would say, hey, this has, anything paranormal going on with it. The whole thing was basically, if it were flesh and blood, because that's what it acted like, that's what it did. And so, but some of these people that I'm hearing stories from, that I believe them 100%. They're very close to me. There's no reason for them to lie to me, and to embellish stories or anything like that. But they have described things that I can't explain.
Yeah. And a lot of these people, they have everything to lose by coming out. They have nothing to gain by telling their encounter, So that's what I find credible alone right there, because, a lot of these people, like, their families even shun them, it's awful. So, they have everything to lose. So what do they have to gain by coming out about it? They have nothing.
Absolutely nothing. So, I mean, that's why I have a tendency to believe them, because they're not looking to gain any notoriety or receive money for it or whatever. They just want to get their story out and say, hey, I'm not crazy, am I? And we're here to say, no, you're not.
So, Brandy, looky here. So, Ivy says, OMG, I was there the night you guys are talking about in Ava with Shane and Randy. I caught something on audio when it was near our tent. That was the night of the big storm, right? This is bananas. Absolutely. Yes. It was that night.
That is the one.
Yep. That's it.
Yep. That is the night.
Mm-hmm. Well, good to see you again, Ivy.
Yes, Ivy.
So actually, I think it was the first guest that we ever had on was a gentleman named Christopher Noel. Mm-hmm. He's got a couple books about Sasquatch habitation, places that he stayed with people on their properties that had interactions just all the time. But he's got a theory that Sasquatch has a form of autism. And that's what makes them so specialized at what they do, so perfect and just so meticulous. Because I work for the past 15 years, I've worked with adults with autism, and there's things that, like there could be something on the bookshelf that's been moved half an inch. They'll notice it, come in and move it. And that's what you see when, I put camera traps up everywhere. Well, they found all of them, and it wasn't even difficult. A lot of the swaying I see a lot is like self-soothing. And a lot of people think that that's to, appear to be like a moving in the wind, but it could also be self-soothing. The rearranging of objects, with just the meticulous, like I cannot leave it like that. It has to be perfect. That sort of thing. It's a really interesting theory, but there's so much out there because we don't have one. Do you think now? I'm assuming that you all you trust this woman that was talking about the two Bigfoots that were killed.
Yeah, well, it's actually a show. It's Small Town Monsters.
Yeah.
And you have to check out their stuff, though. I mean,
We don't know their sources, so I wouldn't say I do or I don't.
Gotcha. I just didn't know if she was reporting it as fact or if she was saying this is a story that was out there.
So what it is they actually interview him and several people that when this happened that he contacted right after. I'll send you the link. And
it's not Rick Dyer, is it?
What's that?
It's not Rick Dyer, is it?
No.
It's Small Town Monsters. It's Seth Breedlove and Heather Mosier is our friend who she's a producer and
awesome.
On a lot
Alex
of their,
Petikoff and yeah.
Sounds like fun.
But like I said, they're just recording the story.
Right.
They're not putting out there that they believe it or they don't believe it. They just are putting out the information, and I love that too. I mean, put it out.
Oh
there.
absolutely.
Let's see it. Let's share it. Let's see if we can figure something out. But I really, really enjoy everything that has to do with the cryptid world, the paranormal world. I'll do it as long as I can do it.
Yeah.
And
was there anything that's
probably when I
around
can.
here? So aside from Sasquatch, is there anything around here that you'd think you'd like to see? Pie-saw, maybe?
Wow. There, I don't know. I mean, there's so much around here, that people
There
don't.
is a ton. I guess we'd have to put our heads together and think about that one because there's a bunch of stuff. I haven't really investigated St. Louis. If you want to know the truth, I've always gone to the big locations and just to check them out because like I say, I'm from the Show Me State. If you say your place is on it, show me.
Right.
I'm that person. But yeah, I'll have to think about that because there's a lot of locations up there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at cryptids, we got the Enfield monster that was pretty close, three-legged kangaroo type creature. I don't know if I'd want to see that. Sounds kind of creepy, but a lot of dogmen stuff around here too. So I think, I don't know. Do you want to see a dogman?
No. Well, yes, but not up close.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I would like to be able to zoom in and see it, but I don't want to be up close to it.
Right.
Up close and personal. No, I do
Agreed.
not. I think out of all the cryptid stories and reports that we've heard, that the dogman seems to be one of the most vicious.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Right where I live in North O'Fallon area, kind of off Highway 79 area.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a dogman encounter that's like right by me.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty interesting. It was a lady, it was during Hurricane Katrina, was fleeing Hurricane Katrina, and her parents lived up in Quincy, Illinois. And she was on her way up there with her cat. Her car broke down on 79 and a dogman came up to her car. She got her car started. And I don't remember, she said what it was. It was just a quick thing, but a dogman came up, behind
how many stories have we heard about a dogman chasing a car too? Or running alongside a car? Because it could already outrun me like that. So no.
Oh yeah, you hear about them getting up 60, 65 miles an hour, no problem.
No.
So it's not a dog.
No.
And I also believe that they are more on I don't know, kind of more of a
they're on a different level. They're on a different level.
Yes. Only because, there's so many people that go out and like they see them in cemeteries and things like this. At Land Between the Lakes, there's a grave out there that we've been to that supposedly a dogman rose out of.
Yeah, they're something else. What they are, nobody knows, but it's something else.
Yeah.
I do know that much.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would never trust one enough to get close. That's for sure. Mm-mm.
No.
I don't think it's a form of Bigfoot. Do you? Like a lot of people think, it's just another kind of Bigfoot.
I don't think so. No, I think this is something totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different because it's not only because of the appearance of them.
Mhm.
I mean, their whole thing about their movements, their aggression, their whole demeanor is different from any Bigfoot, even like the Gugway that we've heard about that is supposed to be vicious. Even that is different, you know. But then again, we don't know. Like I said, that when I meet Bigfoot face to face or a dogman face to face, I'll finally know because I'll be saying I'll meet everybody in a minute. I'll come back and I'll haunt you, and then I'll tell you about it.
Well, fair enough. As long as we don't have to use a Ouija board to find out.
No, all I gotta do is turn on a spirit box. I'll be good. I'll be right there.
Fair enough.
You won't even have to teach me how to use it. I got it.
All right.
Right, absolutely. This has been fun. Honestly, I appreciate you coming on. We actually
appreciate the opportunity.
More time than what we usually do. So this
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I mean, people are, we still, honestly, I can tell you right now, we have 253 people watching this show. Right.
Nice.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And if everybody would subscribe to Jay's channel and all the channels that we have listed in the.
And don't forget us while you're there.
Yes. Yes. Hit the thumbs up. But we appreciate it. And if you guys are in the area this weekend, Emmaus Village, haunted location, come check it out. You won't be disappointed. We actually had, I'm not going to say it's a dogman or Bigfoot or anything like that, but it's a something. And I don't believe it's a ghost.
Right. It's a something else.
Yeah, recording we heard the audio. So anyway, it's a cool location. And if you guys are in the area, I've got the link pinned at the top of the show. Just click on it. If you want to come on. And stay on for a minute in backstage. Don't hang up yet.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night. I'm going to be on with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I'm going to be on with Donny Cho Says Stuff and Jason McLean from Serial Papers. Who knows what we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk about something good, because all four of us, you just never know what you're going to get.
Absolutely. And in about 15 minutes, Tex is going to be going live. I know Monica's out of town, so she's not, I guess, doing her show tonight. So Tex will be doing a Night Owls show tonight. So tune in over there to Texas Front Porch. And I think that's it. And we will see everybody tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to Eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.